What would happen to your body if you stopped drinking alcohol for the next 1 to 3 months? Now, this is a topic we're going to go look at and explore. And there's been some pretty interesting articles coming out in terms of looking at some of the research and doing a little bit of a review of all the bodies of evidence that exist on this topic. A lot of people think that, hey, alcohol in moderation isn't too bad. And other people think that, well, 10 drinks a week isn't going to kill me. And I've even read that alcohol can increase testosterone production. So we're going to go ahead and look at some of these studies, look at some of these reviews and articles and see some of the claims that they're making and really figure out, are these claims justified? Does the research really indicate these things? Or is it a little bit of bogus? So let's go ahead and jump in and let's look at this first article. So let's see exactly what they are trying to talk about here, right? So this is what happens to your body when you stop drinking. Well, normally I wouldn't suggest you getting your health advice from Yahoo Life anyways, but let's just go ahead and let's see exactly what they get right and what they don't get right. And then let's really think about this topic, and I'll give you my, not my 2 cents, but really everything I know that is evidence-based and research-backed. And then I'm going to show you exactly how you can find that stuff too using this really cool website called examine.com. So let's jump into this article. So I love the opening statement right here. Pandemic has driven many of us to drink, whether it's a little added stress relief or an attempt to alleviate months of mind-numbing monotony. Many of us are adding another cocktail, beer, or a glass of wine at night. Okay, so let's think about that. Yes, when you're stressed, usually people will go to alcohol as kind of like a coping mechanism. Now, there's a few things you need to know about alcohol in general. Number one, there really isn't anything good that comes from it, except maybe some of the fun that you can have from social interactions. But when I mean good, I'm talking from a pure health perspective, right? There really are no health benefits to alcohol. Even people who try to say that, like a little glass of red wine here and there is really beneficial for heart health, etc., it's actually not, because the cons outweigh the pros. If you're really looking to get some of the benefits of the things like resveratrol that you can find in red wine, you'd be much better just taking a supplement form of it and actually just ditching the alcohol. But I digress. Let's get back to the point at hand. This article is trying to say, it's trying to claim something, right? So it's trying to say that alcohol in moderation is mostly fine and maybe even good for you, right? So we'll go back to this topic and we'll think about it and look at it. According to some research, the problem lies in the fact that it's surprisingly easy to exceed what experts call moderate. For men, imbibing 15 or more drinks per week renders them heavy or a problem drinker. For women, it takes just 12 or more weeks to enter the trouble zone. Now, I don't know about you, but 15 drinks a week, that's a lot of alcohol. I don't know who's doing that, but yeah, I would say that is definitely a heavy drinker. If you're drinking more than 15 drinks a week or somewhere around that number, oh man, you definitely need to stop, right? A glass of wine here or there, okay, in that scenario, it's a lot better for you than doing that. One of the things they say, on day one, you might notice some carb cravings. Sure, this is technically true. I mean, if you're getting the majority of your sugars from alcohol and then you just cut them out cold turkey, yeah, you might get a little bit of carb cravings because booze has sugar in it, right? If you're drinking wine, you're going to be getting more sugar. If you're drinking beer, you're getting a lot of carbohydrates from the hops. I don't really know if it's, on day one, how high your sugar cravings are going to be. Let me know. If you stop drinking alcohol on the first day, what type of cravings do you get? Now let's go into day 2 or 3. So now going in without it for a few days won't make much of a difference on a physiological level. Emotionally speaking, however, you might miss the release and relaxation you're used to getting from wine, beer, or mixed drinks. Yeah, but there's other things that happen to your body physiologically. Number one, the thing that you have to remember about alcohol is that it's not just carbohydrates. Alcohol is ethanol, and ethanol, in a way, is a macronutrient because it does have calories, right? So protein and carbs are going to give you 4 calories per gram. Fats give you 9. And ethanol, which is not the most well-known one, is going to give you 7 calories per gram. The thing about ethanol, however, is your body doesn't have a primary use for it. So in a way, it is an empty calorie, but those calories are going to be processed by your liver. And when you have high alcohol consumption, because your liver is processing all that alcohol, you might run into something known as fatty liver disease, because those calories are just being converted into fat. Your body's not utilizing them. It's not going to say, hey, on that next workout, let's use that ethanol and stuff. So, yes, ethanol is going to be going and being converted into fat. And the carbohydrates that you're consuming, while those may be burned off later, they're still going to be going to fat if they're not utilized. So a couple days of not drinking, those are just calories that are not coming in. So even though it might say on a, you might not be seeing anything on a physiological level, it's not necessarily true because let's say, for example, you do have 2 to 3 drinks per day. On the third day, if you're averaging 3 drinks a day, on the third day, that's 9 drinks you didn't consume. If the average alcoholic beverage you're consuming is somewhere around 300 calories, and now you're 9 drinks down, that's a lot of calories, of a lot of empty calories that are no longer being consumed. So yes, on a physiological level, there are going to be things that are happening that's beneficial for your body. So let's keep going down. So now what happens when you stop drinking? 4 to 7 days. Okay, so let's look at this right here. So the body breaks down alcohol into sugar before breaking it down further into vinegar and water so the kidneys can remove it. At the point that it's sugar, it's a stimulant, and the effect is enough to wake you up during the night. Even though most people fall back asleep eventually, they often don't get deep sleep, which is key for regenerating cells and restoring energy. Now, this is true. One of the things you have to remember about sleep is that sleep is broken up into many different cycles. And if you're not getting those deep sleep cycles and you're not getting enough REM sleep, well, then you're not getting enough quality sleep. So sometimes people who are heavy drinkers or they have some alcohol, the first things they're going to notice is that, yeah, their sleep is going to be impaired. And we're not just talking about having your typical hangover. No, alcohol in general is affecting the quality of sleep that you get. And so if you remove alcohol, yeah, I would actually argue that on the first day, you're going to start noticing benefits to your sleep. But definitely by around the first week of no alcohol, you are definitely going to see some massive improvements, not only in the way that you feel, but just in terms of your total energy levels. Because if you've been without getting that deep sleep for a long period of time, and now all of a sudden you start to get those deep, those sleep cycles back, you're going to be feeling like a totally different person. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and skip all the way down to what happens when you stop drinking, weeks 3 to 5, right? It says you start thinking more clearly, your memory is better, and you can concentrate better. Along with that, anxiety and depressive symptoms often abate. So that's very interesting. We're going to go into this a little bit more when we actually look at the studies and why this might be happening. The other thing is you'll probably also notice fewer digestive issues. When you drink regularly, the stomach is irritated because there is way too much acid present. This can cause pain, indigestion, acid reflux. For many people, all of that slows down and starts reversing after several weeks of not drinking. Okay, once again, health benefits are just going to keep coming once you stop drinking. So for the most part, the person's getting it right. There isn't really anything that they're saying. They're not making any claims that there really is no research backing it up. So far, surprisingly, this is pretty good. Now, one of the things that we're going to go into is we're going to go into looking at what happens after 1 to 3 months. Okay. So after a few months of refraining from booze, all the positive changes that come from abstinence add up to significantly improve long-term health projections. Within a month to a few months, we can start seeing a decrease in heart-related issues such as high cholesterol and blood pressure levels. Future cancer risks such as throat, stomach, and liver cancer also decrease significantly. So overall, if you kind of look at what's going on when you're removing alcohol, you can definitely see a lot of benefits. Now, there's a lot of claims made in this, so let's actually go and look at some of the research behind alcohol consumption and see what's true, what's not, how much evidence there is supporting some of these claims made. And also, this is just something that you can do in general. So we're going to just hop over to this website right here called examine.com. And if you just type in alcohol, you get this little summary right here. Alcohol is one of the world's favorite intoxicants, right? It is frequently found at social gatherings because it provides an anxiety reducing effect. Well, that sounds great, right? Consuming too much, however, will result in alcohol poisoning, which can be fatal. So that's not really what we worry about right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to this thing called the human effect matrix. Now, a lot of times you'll hear people say things like, alcohol can significantly reduce testosterone levels in men. Now, surprisingly, what we find here is we actually find kind of like a bell curve, or we kind of find like a spectrum in a sense, where a little bit of alcohol might increase testosterone and too much alcohol might decrease testosterone. So if we look at it, we're going to go just look at the summary right here. So there appears to be a time-dependent influence on testosterone, with acute doses of alcohol increasing testosterone, secondary to creating energy influx in the liver. So small enough of an increase to be somewhat effective, but may contribute to libido, right? So if you've ever been out at a bar, you've had a little bit of alcohol, right? You've had your first or two, you're 1 to 2 beers in, and all of a sudden you get a little boost in your libido and you feel confident enough to talk to that lady, right? Well, this is actually the effect that alcohol can have in very small dosages. Abuse of alcohol comes at the opposite end of the spectrum, right? So the acute increase in testosterone is thought to be related to spikes in libido at low amounts. However, at higher amounts of drinking, we do see a decrease in testosterone production, primarily because the research kind of shows that alcohol in and of itself is toxic to the testes. Now, if you think about that, you have to think about, well, what about women? So women don't have testicles, so alcohol will not be toxic to them. So would it have an effect on testosterone for them? Now, there's actually some pretty interesting studies. I don't know if they have it here, but alcohol does seem to be sex dependent. And what I mean by sex dependent is, well, if you were born as a woman, alcohol might actually, in some amounts, boost testosterone, whereas in men, in higher dosages, it will decrease testosterone because alcohol is toxic to the testicles. So one of the studies that I really like, which I will put in the description below, is this one here on alcohol's effects on male reproduction. So if we look at the conclusion here on this study, what we can see is that alcohol can have profound deleterious effects at all levels of the male reproductive system. Although researchers have learned much about those effects in the past 20 years, many questions remain unanswered. For example, future research must focus on the effects of alcohol ingestion earlier in life, for example, before puberty or during puberty, when the reproductive organs, particularly the testes, are maturing and may be more susceptible to alcohol-induced damage. So now this is pretty interesting, because what this is saying is that there's not many studies on what happens if a person starts consuming alcohol before puberty or even during puberty. And actually, this is something that's pretty interesting, because from what I've seen with clients that I've trained before, this is actually a topic that I try going into a lot more with people and trying to figure out exactly what is their history with alcohol. Because a lot of people don't know this, but if you start alcohol at a really young age, you might actually permanently reduce your potential testosterone production later in life. So, for example, if we took two 18-year-old boys, and let's say one of them started drinking at 16 years old and the other one has never touched alcohol before in his life, we could almost guarantee that the person who is 18 years old, who's never touched alcohol before, would more than likely have higher testosterone levels than the other 18-year-old who started drinking alcohol as early as 16, and maybe even, let's say he's partying a bunch at 18 years old and he's drinking alcohol quite a bit. The effects that alcohol can have on the testes, for example, it's just, not only is it going to damage sperm production, but it's also going to be damaging and lowering total levels of testosterone. So yes, we know that alcohol has a profound influence on testosterone. In small amounts, sure, you might see some type of boost, but you have to remember that that boost is not necessarily an anabolic boost. So when we talk about alcohol potentially increasing testosterone levels, what we're really saying is that that testosterone increase is more so from an increase in libido, and not necessarily that that increase in testosterone carries with it any enhanced anabolism, in a sense, meaning that it is not going to lead to an increase in muscle and strength in the way that if you were to inject testosterone in you, you would see an anabolic gain. So it is really wrong for people to think and to say that, oh yeah, I've read a study that alcohol increases testosterone, so it's going to help me get jacked. Yeah, that's not really what it's saying. So it's just something to keep in mind. Another important thing to remember is that there are studies, so as for example this one, that acute ingestion of alcohol may be able to reduce subsequent power output. Now that's really important if you're someone who is an active individual, or you weight train, or even if you're into strength training. A couple days of drinking might be pretty bad for you in terms of what your next training session might look like. So if you're an athlete and you drink, or you go to parties and you drink alcohol, you're going to be weaker those next couple days. So, what I highly suggest is to try and keep alcohol as low as possible. Not only is it going to be benefiting you in terms of health, right? So, not only will you see improvements in your own heart health, liver health, reduction in the risk of cancer, but you're also going to be seeing normal strength gains, and you're going to be making sure that your testosterone levels stay high and healthy. Okay, guys, so hopefully you found that helpful. Let me know, what do you think? How much alcohol do you consume on a regular basis? So on any given week, how much alcohol are you consuming? Is it a glass of red wine every single night? Or do you find yourself consuming more than 5 to 10, 15 drinks a week? And based on these studies and just looking at some of the research that's out there, are you going to stop? Now, if you guys were looking at these and wondering, why am I wearing reading glasses? No, they're not reading glasses. They're actually blue light blocking glasses. And I actually have 2 pairs right here. So blue light blocking glasses are very good for when you're on the computer, you spend some time, let's say you're working all day long and you're in front of a screen, or just when you're trying to prepare for bed and you don't want to get a lot of that blue light. So I will wear these ones usually all the way up until around 4 or 5 p.m. And then once it gets sometime around 5 or 6, I'll usually switch to these other ones. Now, you end up looking like some type of celebrity or movie star, or maybe Tony Stark when you put these things on, and the whole world just turns red, pretty much. So why would you want to wear these? Why would you want to use these? Well, if you're like me and you spend a lot of time in front of a screen and you're working a lot, I spend a lot of time editing videos, putting together content. So I need to protect my eyes, because a lot of times, not only can that screen glare just really affect things and cause migraines or headaches, but the other thing is blue light exposure in large amounts. Not only will it make you crave food and make you hungry, but it's also going to decrease total levels of melatonin production and increase cortisol levels. So if you want to know a little cool trick in terms of just reducing overall stress levels and making sure that you get better sleep every night, I highly suggest checking out Blue Blocks. And I put a link in the description down below where you can just go ahead and pick up your own copy. Now, Blue Blocks makes some of the best blue light blocking glasses. I've used quite a few brands before, but in my opinion, Blue Blocks they do it right. And not only that, but you get a bunch of different cool designs depending on what you're after and what you're looking for. A lot of times, if you look for blue light blocking glasses just on Amazon, you might find some really cheap ones, right? These things are just made in mass production, and you get them and they break. And don't try to fall for that little purple light pen trick, where you put the purple pen over the light and it disappears. Because when it comes to blue light blocking, there actually exists a spectrum. And sometimes those glasses that are cheap and inexpensive, they don't actually block the full range that we need. So the cool thing about Blue Blocks is that all the glasses are tested and they have all the reports online that you can check just to see how amazing they are. So go ahead and use that link in the description below and order yourself a pair. And I guarantee you, not only will you be getting better sleep, but you're also going to be reducing any type of strain that you normally get on the eyes, migraines, headaches, etc. So highly suggest that every single person owns a pair of these. And look, if you guys like this type of content, just go ahead and leave a like. It lets me know that, hey, this is something that you want to try, something a little bit different, right? Just heading over to the computer, checking out some of these articles. It's definitely something I want to try doing at least once a week on this specific topic. There's a lot of articles that come out where you might see things like, hey, a glass of tequila a day is actually pretty good for you, right? Because it comes from potatoes. I don't know if you guys have seen that one, but really what we're going to do is just once a week, let's look at some of these trending articles, take a real look at them and see, is it really backed by research, or are they just kind of looking at meta-analysis that maybe have been done on certain things, and are they just drawing conclusions out of their ass, right? So let's look at some of these things. Let's see where you can get some good health information and just get a good idea of what is out there that's true, right? Because so much information is put out on a daily basis, and just like, what is true, right? I remember reading the other day, meat is bad for you. And then the next day, meat is actually good for you. And then the following day, it was like, green tea is the best thing you can have. And then like a few hours later, there was a new article that was like, green tea actually causes cancer, right? So there's a lot of misinformation out there. And so this new thing that I'll be doing at least once a week is just gonna be pretty cool and trying to investigate. So make sure that you guys hit that subscribe button and also click on the bell so you turn on notifications so you never miss when one of these videos drops. And as always, guys, stay strong and I'll see you next time.